Well, hey everybody. I've been itching to do another cigar video and thought it might be a good time to reflect on the election as well and give you my thoughts. If you are subscribed to my Substack, then you can read all about it there. But I thought I'd talk about it too. But if that goes in focus, I'm gonna smoke a Davidoff cigar. In this case, it's the Special T, and it's an anniversary cigar. This was very expensive. I've been waiting to have this one for a special occasion, so I'm sharing it with you. It is early. Normally, I would do this in the afternoon with the sun out, but I just can't seem to find the time. And so I'm going to have it early this morning in the cold. You probably can hear our fountain in the background. And talk about the cigar, but also talk about my thoughts about the election. So with that, I bring you myself and the Davidoff Special T Anniversario. I've never paid this much money for a cigar in my life. But I wanted to know what the experience is like. And if it's really any different. Now, I haven't been smoking cigars lately. It's been a few months since I've had one, so I wonder if that's going to play a role in it and mess up my palate. But I'll go through the description of it as I move along. But one thing about the cigar is supposedly it has a wrapper, binder, and filler from like all over the world. Where is that page? But like the binder is from Ecuador, the wrapper is like from Connecticut. That's probably not right, but it's from different like weather patterns. And so you'll get a different leaf, and then by blending it all together, you get this. If I find that here, I'm cheating and looking at a website. If I find it, I will make sure to share that. And because it's a torpedo, I'm going to use this thing. Normally I use the punch, but not with a torpedo. So the point is that let's just hang out, especially if you smoke cigars and you don't have anybody to smoke with, kind of like me. It might be a good time just to hang out, watch the video, and smoke with me. And I just realized I'm missing the lighter I wanted to bring out to toast it. But I got this guy. Just going to toast the end here. I love this lighter. It's so precise. So you can get it even and toast that sucker. I think that's good enough, though. I also forgot my coffee, which kind of bums me out. But yeah, this has been, hey, let's just hang out. Let's hang out, and I'll talk about stuff. But right from the get-go, I think I love this cigar. I tend to like the on the milder side. I used to like the robust, like you're smoking a coffee plant. But I like this a little better. Okay, so here we go. The wrapper, meaning the leaf you see on the outside, is from Ecuador. I was right about that one. The binder, which is what binds the blend inside before the wrapper goes on, is from Dominican Republic. Oh, and the filler is from Dominican Republic too. So I was kind of right. Typically, most of the flavor comes from the wrapper. At least that's what I'm told. But this reminds me, if you've ever watched any of my cigar videos, of my favorite cigar, which is the Perdomo 12-year anniversary. And it's because it's got like some kind of spice in it. Kind of tastes like nutmeg to me, but not overdoing it. But it makes it so enjoyable. So I got a ton of those. But I am really liking this from the get-go. What I'm supposed to be tasting now is fresh spice. I take that back. Cedar wood, supposedly. Fresh, then roasted nuts in the middle, or the second third. And then fresh spice on the third, also known as the head. So the taste description: unconventional harmonies of tobaccos from 3 different levels of the plant are blended together to create the perfect medium intense cigar to fill time beautifully. Davidoff Anniversario Special T in the unique torpedo shape lets aficionados vary the diameter of the cut according to personal taste. Yeah, this is about the size that I typically would smoke and why I bought this one. And so far I love it, even though it's 7 in the morning. I love it. It's not being an aficionado necessarily myself. I do have trouble explaining why I love it. But I think it's got just enough bite. It's not like you're smoking air. And you are getting some not intense, but mild flavors that are good. So anyway, that's a little bit about the cigar. I'll keep you posted as I smoke through. But let's talk about the election. And how I feel about it. Well, let's see. Let's walk through this for myself. If I'm being totally honest, actually, well, first let me say I was totally wrong about the outcome. I thought that Trump had kind of lost it enough in the end to even make the undecided wary of him. And I was totally wrong. And I was worried. Again, when I talk about these things, I don't want to be fearful to talk about politics or what I think. I just want to be able to give my testimony, one of our tenets, testimony to the table, and just tell you where I'm coming from. And if you can disagree with maybe how I interpreted events and stuff, but you can't really disagree that I feel a certain way. And maybe we should go over those. This is a radical. This is me. I started a show called Radical Metal, but that was based off this whole idea of a radical middle. So if you're not familiar with this content, the radical middle has 4 tenets. There used to be only 3, but now there's 4. One is bring dignity to the discourse, bring testimony to the table, come to the table with how you see things and why. You're not coming with an agenda or trying to take down the other person. We believe that clarity comes through engagement, so we have to talk to each other. And then the 4th one that I haven't told anybody about, and I'm still kind of working through, is that the radical metal is invigorated by being wrong. Just think about that. I was wrong about the election, so I thought Kamala Harris was going to win. Was I crestfallen that she didn't win? I went through a number of emotions, but the first one was really curious how I got it wrong. And being that curiosity, and by working through that curiosity to get to some new conclusions and to inform a new perspective, that's invigorating for me. Whereas I don't see that a lot with a lot of people, especially our political candidates. It's going to be hard to talk the whole time. This is very enjoyable. And then you have of course, I'm representing Mastodon. They're fallen torches. Bomber jacket. And as usual, I'm representing Kelly's Death Pickles. The best tickles in the world. The best tickles in the world. No, best pickles in the world. I love them. You can find them on Etsy. Look them up. It's good stuff. And they got a partnership with Mastodon, so I sort of have to buy them by default. So anyway, that's the 4th tenet. Dignity to the discourse, testimony to the table, clarity comes through engagement, and now I haven't figured out the right wording yet, but invigoration when you're wrong. And it's invigorating because you have the curiosity for it. You're not a sore loser. You don't go get your poo-poo pants, change your poo-poo pants. You're an adult and you're thoughtful. And so you're invigorated by being wrong. Being wrong is not threatening to a guy or a girl in the radical middle universe. It's invigorating. It's the opposite of that. So I was invigorated. I'm like, how did I get that wrong? And it was fun. Kind of going through like, I underestimated this or I overestimated that. So that was that's how my emotion started in reaction to this race. The next one was relief. And I'm being honest. I'll tell you why after this puff. You almost want to smoke this cigar without talking and just enjoy it. So you're welcome. And I apologize. Apparently I'm very stuffed up. But yes, relief. I was relieved because in my mind, I thought if Trump loses, we would see a lot of violence. Now, I find it also very interesting that other people thought it was the opposite. With Kamala losing, that there'd be a ton of violence. But I'm not seeing it, and nor do I understand that perspective. People called in bomb threats because to the city council in Springfield, Ohio, because they weren't following the Republican Party line that Haitians were eating dogs and cats. That's where I'm informed, or that's where I get the idea that if Trump loses, that it will be more violent. I feel like he does talk about undignified discourse, but can call to his followers to instigate violence. Do they do it on the left? I guess so. Everybody brings up BLM riots, things like that. I guess so. I don't think it's the same thing, but I think it's more pronounced on the Trump side. And I was relieved that he won, because now I don't think there'll be violence. Maybe some protests, but I don't think there'll be violence. And hey, if I'm wrong, awesome. But another reason I was relieved, this has such good flavor, I want to inhale it, which you're not supposed to do. But another reason I was relieved is because now we're not going to hear Republicans whine about it. Inevitably, Trump would say the election was rigged. He said as much. If he loses, it's rigged. And so what would we hear for at least the next 4 years? Whining about it being rigged despite no evidence. Just like last time, he lost. I mean, if you guys think there's evidence, then where is it? I remember, so Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan's podcast and said, Joe, we have so many papers. We got so many papers. They're all going to come to light. Why wouldn't they come to light years ago? Why wouldn't you want to prove an election being rigged years ago? But you didn't. You went to a court which demands evidence and lost because there was no evidence. So why wouldn't you bring all those many papers, piles of papers? Why wouldn't you bring that up? Why wouldn't you already share that? I just don't believe him. But if he lost, he would have complained that it was rigged, and then maybe, again, more violence. Just like January 6th. His supporters, because they believed him, thought the election was rigged. And I always say, if I believed who was telling me that, I did not in this case, I would have been on storming the Capitol as well to feel out, because my vote was cheated. I was cheated out of my vote. So I don't necessarily blame those guys who went down there, because they believed him when he said the election was rigged. That's why one of many deal breakers I'll talk about that was why I didn't vote for Donald Trump. So, but I'm relieved this time because I suspect less violence, and how could we ever tell whether or not it's true or not? But I'm not seeing violence. But then Trump complaining about it for the next 4 years. And then the other thing I'm relieved for is, if Kamala Harris won, I would have to explain every misstep for the next 4 years of whatever she did was wrong. And that sounds terrible to me, because I wasn't voting for her. I'll be honest, I was voting against Trump. As I say a lot, I would have voted for a rotting head of lettuce over Trump. So, relieved. It was definitely a non-Trump vote. It wasn't a Kamala Harris vote, is what I'm saying. But, then we're talking through emotions. Confused. I'm confused because things like that I just seem so obvious to me are not obvious to other people, or they think just dramatically different. I mean, I understand some things. I think Kamala Harris represents a system that maybe has not worked for many people, and she's perceived as a puppet, a figurehead. And so if you believe that, then I guess I can kind of get why you wouldn't vote for Trump. And Donald Trump also represents like a middle finger still to the system, a system that many perceive has not worked for them. And I've tried to unpack that too. Is it inflation? And that drives me nuts because inflation is not, you can't point at one party for inflation issues. We got off the gold standard back with Nixon. So blame Nixon. If there's any president to blame, it's President Nixon, who got us off the gold standard, got us into debt, and got us into printing money, which causes inflation. But both parties are guilty of that. So I guess I do understand if people perceive that it was because of Kamala Harris or the Biden administration, but it's not true. But then you could say, well, the left probably should have communicated that better, and I would agree with that. If you're pro-life, I get it. If you voted for Trump, while I feel that they have many lies. The lie of executing babies after they're born, it's just not true. That's just ridiculous. But if you're pro-life in general, I get why you might vote for Trump because he's definitely more pro-life. But I think being pro-life is a little bit of a convenient thing to shake your fist at because you're not, unless you're pro-life and you have adopted kids. I'll listen to those people. If you have adopted kids and you're pro-life, that makes sense to me, and I'll listen to you. But if you haven't, and you just want to yell at the left, and you're not doing anything to help the unwanted children that are born, then I don't have any respect for you, and you should shut up. But either way, my point is, I get it if you voted for Trump, if you're pro-life. Businesses, better for business. Republicans in general seem to be better for business because they remove regulations. So I get that. Even though I'll get to it in a minute, but there's some lines in the sand for me that I don't understand aren't there for other people, but we'll get there in a second. Bitcoin, Kamala Harris didn't go to the Bitcoin conference, and Trump did. And sure enough, when Trump was elected the winner, Bitcoin is going through the roof, and I own Bitcoin. So that was honestly exciting to see, but I believe Bitcoin's success would be inevitable anyway, no matter what party, because it speaks for itself. Even if you don't get it yet, you will get it at some point, and I think its success would be inevitable. But a little push on that, for sure. For sure, the price is going through the roof, at least for now, because of Donald Trump. This is good. Now we're getting to the middle third. In the middle third of my points. Right now, I should be tasting roasted nuts. I'm not sure I can tell either way, but it's just delightful. So business, Bitcoin. But so let me tell you, the deal breakers for me, that this is where I'm just confused. And I don't bring them up to argue these anymore. I just want to crack the code on why I could feel so strongly and in certain violations by him so strongly for it to be a line in the sand for me and many others, and why it's not for those who voted for him. And I say it because, not to argue with anybody, though I will if it's helpful. But I want to crack the code on that. I suspect it might be due to the media, not corporate media, but the media that I think we're evolving to. Maybe glossed over it, or maybe could explain it away. But let me share some of those things. So if you know me, my line in the sand was 11,780 votes because it was one more than we need to win the state. That's a direct quote from Donald Trump. So basically, he wanted to find and sabotage the election in his favor. I don't know how you explain that away or how you can get beyond that if you're a protector of democracy. I don't know how you get beyond that if you're served in the military or served now, where you took an oath to uphold the Constitution. You took an oath that you would die, if it need be, you would die in order to protect government by consent. Voting. The consent is the vote. We vote, and then they either win or they lose. And he clearly tried. Okay, he didn't. The institutions held up. Sure. Will they hold up this time? I don't know. But the fact that he wanted to find 11,780 votes, the most blatant disregard for our Constitution that I signed up to die for if need be, was the ultimate deal breaker. And I don't mean to beat that horse. What I'm curious about is, how do I feel so strongly about that, but others don't? That's what I want to crack. That's the code I want to crack. The only thing I can think of is they explain it either lying about that call or explaining it away somehow. But I just don't get that. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I want to crack that code. Why do I feel so strongly about that and think that others should feel so strongly about that, but others don't feel strongly about that? So, and I'll get into some theories in a second, but also not conceding. You know, he lied about the election being stolen. He didn't concede. And then what do we have from Kamala Harris the night, or maybe it was the next morning this time? She conceded. And you might say, oh, Hillary didn't concede either. Yes, she did. She called him and conceded. And maybe it took a day or two, but, and maybe she complained about it and whined about it later. Sure, you can criticize that. But Trump never conceded. 2016 ever, or 2020. And you know what else? I mean, if he actually did believe the system's rigged, then why would he run again? Again, I can't get past that mentally. And I don't know. I would love to see how other people explain it away, or at least help me understand why that's okay with them. Like, why is that glossed over? Why is that okay? Because our institutions held up? That doesn't make sense to me. And then, if the institutions held up last time, he's been thinking of 4 years getting people ready to be in place that will do his bidding. And the institutions, I would think, are less poised to stand up to him this time. Now, he's 80 something, or he's going to be 80 soon. He'll be 84 at the end of this term. So will he stay around, try to stay in power after the regular 4-year term limit? I think if he was younger, he would. But as of now, I honestly don't think that. I think he might have done it if he won in 2020. If he could. But I'll leave that on the table. Since he's so old, I think he doesn't have it in him to actually hold on to power. But he didn't concede. Kamala Harris conceded. So how do you explain that away? Good for Kamala Harris, bad for Trump, but I still voted for him? I don't know. So I think a theory of mine is the media. People listen less to corporate media, which is probably a good thing. and more to citizen journalism, right? Um, and that's, you got the bro Rogans, as I call them, the Theo Vaughns, Joe Rogan. Um, who else is out there? Jordan Peterson. The bros out there that are pouring information, whether good information or not, into the minds of their watchers. Um, Again, with maybe misinformation about his call for 11,780 votes, about conceding, about January 6th. I'm not exactly sure how to frame it yet, but I think that it's because folks listen more. Tim Pool's another one. More to them than they did to corporate media. And Fox News is spouting out the same stuff, but I think my only point is there needs to be a left wing guerrilla media like the right wing, or at least something that can counter it. Because nobody trusted CNN anymore either. So basically, we're getting your information from YouTube. Where things are hardly ever fact checked, right? So anyway, I think it had to do with that guerrilla media and those podcasts that focused people on what the left was doing wrong as opposed to cleaning their own house and fixing what was wrong with their own party. That's a big radical middle thing too. You need to clean your house, and that should be your focus. And when it's clean, then you can start criticizing other people's house. It's back to remove the plank from your own eye before you point out the speck in your brother's eye. So anyway, what does this all lead me to? If you read my Substack, this is what I wrote about last night. I think what it leads to is speaking of cleaning your own house, I just want to focus on radical middle. I think the idea is if it has any steam behind it, let that overpower and take over the American mindset over the right and the left, because they're both failing at this. The radical middle, I think, is where it's at. So let me go over those tenets again, and this is what I'm going to be focused on politically, probably for a long time. But I said it in the beginning, bring dignity to the discourse, bring your own testimony to the table, and with a belief that that clarity will come through engagement, and that you're invigorated if you're wrong. So you can easily admit that you're wrong if you're proven wrong, and that's invigorating. That's a very key criteria for anyone who belongs in the radical middle. In my club, you have to have that in place. You have to believe the first three, and then you have to be like the fourth one, the fourth tenet. Be invigorated when you're wrong. Not just accept it, but be invigorated by it, because that tells me that you're curious. That tells me that you're nuanced. That tells me that your mind and heart are open should you hear valuable information that shows other than how you initially perceive something. And that's huge. So, all this election helped me refine all that stuff. So I'm grateful for it. So anyway, I'm going to focus on radical metal. Radical metal. It's kind of the same thing. You'll figure it out. And then I'm also going to pay attention to what Donald Trump said he's going to do. So we'll go over that in a sec. Okay. So what did he say he was going to do? And this is just to kind of keep a scorecard. Shouldn't we do that of all of our presidents? Keep a scorecard? But it's funny to me that people thought, oh, what did Kamala Harris stand for? She had very specific plans that she shared. And I don't get why people thought that we didn't know what she stood for. And yet they didn't see Trump. Hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about health care? We're going to deport all the immigrants. You know, he would always deflect. He just said a bunch of gibberish. Like, how does that get overlooked? How does he get a pass on that? But not Kamala Harris. That's another thing it's mind-blowing to me. It's just mind-blowing. And it's like, that's part of the code that I'm committed to cracking because I'm absolutely curious about it. How it could be perceived so differently. You know, the only... I've even thought about this because it's crazy, because this is crazy, that there's some kind of unseen force out there, aliens or something, that are flipping the switch on some people and not the others. It's probably not that crazy, but man, I just don't know how to explain it. I think at the end of the day, Trump talked like a regular guy. He talked like a regular guy, and so it seemed authentic. And it probably was. And so you wanted someone who's going to be at least authentic running the country, even if they can't articulate policies, and if they cannot articulate, you know, how to end inflation. But I digress from the last part. The last part is, what did he commit to do? So what can we grade him on? And this is how we can see if he upholds his promises. And I'm not making a forecast either way. I'm going to watch that because it will be interesting to see if he does. So back to deportation, that was number one. Actually, I don't know if these are necessarily in order of priority to him, but he says he's going to deport undocumented migrants. So to me, that means even if you are born in Mexico, but in the United States for the first 2 months of your life, that you're getting deported. The grandma that takes care of you, she's getting deported. That there's no nuance to it. Maybe there will be. Maybe he'll inject some nuance. I don't know. But I know if he plans to deport everybody who's undocumented, there's no physical way to transport that many people. Millions of people. So I'm curious how he thinks he can fulfill that one. Trump promised to end inflation. This one's very laughable to me. It's not a president. It's not a party. It's a terrible system where we've agreed that the dollar has value, even though we print it all the time. That's what inflation is, and that's why I love Bitcoin, and that's a whole nother video. But he says he'll end inflation. So now he does talk about making Bitcoin a part of the National Reserve. I think I'm getting those terms right. If he does that, maybe that will help inflation. But we'll see what he does. I'm just trying to share his promises. He's going to cut climate regulations, drill. He said this is the big one. This is the big one to see if he's full of you-know-what or not. He says he'll end the Ukraine war within 24 hours of his presidency. That I want to see. And if I have to eat any of these words, I'm happy to. Again, because I would be invigorated to be proven wrong. And I think there needs to be a little bit more of that out there. He said no abortion ban. He'll leave it to the states. He's going to pardon some January 6th rioters. He's going to fire Special Counsel Jack Smith within 2 seconds of being president. So first, day one, look to Ukraine and look to Jack Smith and see what happens. He's going to dismantle the Department of Education and says he will protect Social Security and Medicaid. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens there. You know, before, when Trump was president, did my life, was it changed at all? I think maybe I got a little bit more on my paycheck, but that's about it. Did it change dramatically when Kamala Harris, or excuse me, when Biden became president? No, it didn't. Not for me. So I'm curious how other things, their lives were so much better with Trump, besides the podcasts they listen to tell them and such. I don't see it, but maybe I'm blind. Maybe I'm blind to it. But, I mean, that's another kind of the attitude I'm taking. Did it change much last time he was president? No. Will it change more this time? Maybe. Maybe if he goes after everybody who's spoken out against him like I have. Maybe he'll round us all up and put us in a prison camp. I mean, do I think he'll do that? I don't know. I mean, it sounds far-fetched. But it's a little nerve-wracking. What will he do to Jimmy Kimmel? Throw him in prison? Take ABC's license away to have a late night show? Let's watch it. Let's see if he weaponizes government like he thought that Biden did. That'll be interesting. This is my favorite part of any cigar, by the way. I think it's the end of the second third, the beginning of the final third, where I should be tasting roasted nuts and fresh spice. I think that's it. All I wanted to say politically, how I felt about things. I probably got a little more passionate than maybe I wanted to. If there's a key takeaway, and I apologize for my nose. I feel like I'm really stuffed up, and I bet that doesn't translate well on video. And the cigar's probably not helping that either, though I am enjoying it. But I think the main takeaway, having talked this whole time, I'd love for people to ask themselves, when you get proven wrong, what does it feel like? Do you get mad? Do you get mad or do you get curious? I do, I used to preach this stuff, but I get mad sometimes. And that's why I know that it's important not to get mad and to get curious. Everything I think is cool or preach to people are things that I had failed at. And through that failure, realized how important they are. But dignity in the discourse. I'm not always dignified. I am a little bit more now. Now I see how important it is, but I'm still not perfect. Testimonies to the table, that I've probably been pretty good at for a long time. I'm happy to talk about why I believe something. And I think I've always been that way. I'm also pretty good to go when it comes to admitting failure. But I think just in recent years realized how much failure is such a great tool to refine how we think about things. But what do you think of these things? And be honest with yourself. If you agree with it, and I think it's hard to disagree with, but then again, I thought it was hard to disagree with the revulsion that I had with 11,780 votes. So what do I know? But Tell me if you agree with these things. Bring dignity to the discourse. Bring testimony to the table. Do you believe that clarity comes through engagement? How we engage each other, or how we engage. If I want to learn how to play guitar, and I don't know how to play guitar, don't I need to practice? Engagement. Won't that give me clarity on where to put my fingers on the strings? I think that's true for almost everything. Clarity comes through engagement, not just talking about it, doing it. Thought I heard something fall in my pond. Do you agree with those things? I think most people in a conversation would. But are they doing it? Are they reinforcing it? I think those are some of the 4 most important things we can do when we talk about politics. Dignity in the discourse doesn't really apply if you're learning how to play guitar. In fact, you may use some words that aren't dignified, I would imagine, just like I have. But when it comes to politics, I think these are the most important things. Now, you might say we're too far gone, and you might be right. Maybe we're too far gone, and we can't change any of these things because it's already set in stone. I'm thinking about negative ads. Apparently, negative ads still work, but you're violating dignity in the discourse. You're violating invigoration by being wrong. So will it even change? I don't know, but I think it's worth reinforcing, and I kind of feel like I'm going to reinforce this until I die, and with the hopes that there is some kind of movement with it, or there is some maybe political party that changes the playing field. But if there's not, that's fine. At least I fought for what I believe in. But I'm not going to force it. I think people need to naturally come to it. I think my hope is that if I feel this way, there's going to be others that feel this way too. That's what I'm basing this off of. Does that make sense? This is nice. They said, the other thing it says about the cigar is it lasts 50 minutes. It's been about 47 so far, 48. You want to hear about the pairing of the Davidoff Special T Anniversario? It comes with intense notes of cedar, roasted nuts, and fresh spice. The aromatic and balanced medium intense blend is ideally complemented by an elegant character of a brut champagne. I wish I had some champagne right now. So, I meant for this to be relaxing, like you're just hanging out with your buddy smoking a cigar. Hopefully it was. Hopefully it didn't rile you up too much, unless it riled you up in order to join Radical Middle. Again, my perspectives are just my perspectives. It's because I had downloads in my brain that are probably different from yours, and they informed the different experiences, different things I allow in my brain that make me feel this way. And you have the same. But we can refine each other if we talk to each other, and in a dignified way, so we don't take the air out of the room. We can refine each other by sharing what has led to these perspectives. Sure, that's the testimony to the table. Through that discussion, through that engagement, you're going to refine your saw. You're going to sharpen your saw about how you see things, and so will I. And that's because of the clarity that comes through engagement. And at the end of the day, if you're talking to me, or you're talking to somebody else, or if I'm talking to you and you prove you say something that unlocks the door to a greater understanding, and I'm proven wrong, I'm going to be invigorated by that. It's fun. It's fun for me. Now, do you feel the same way? Invigoration by being wrong means you're curious. It means you're curious. It means you're actively trying to figure things out. And that's what we want in Radical Middle. What's the opposite of that? Toe the party line? Toe the party line, and, even though our heart and mind says we can't have it that way, our differences, and this is how I take the word diversity. Our diversity of thought is so powerful if we just shared each other through collaboration. I firmly believe that through collaboration, if everybody's there to help and everybody comes with an open mind, will yield superior solutions. It's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, baby. Stephen Covey. And I've found that to be true. If you come to collaborate, and so have the others in your group, the solutions you come up with will be superior to the ones that you've come up with on your own. Maybe not 100% of the time, but most of the time. Anybody who's been in a band knows this. I can come with a lick, but if I don't have anything to bounce off of with the bassist and the drummer, it may die on the vine. Whereas if I'm playing with them and they feed off of me and we feed off each other, we can come up with a beautiful song. So with that, I leave with those final thoughts. I hope this was enjoyable. Spend some time with me. I don't know where I'm going to post this, but I'll post it somewhere and let you know. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless our veterans, huh? Tell veterans today and tomorrow, it's Sunday, Veterans Day tomorrow, how much you appreciate them and what they've done. They've protected our government by consent. That's what they signed up to give their life for. If government consent needs them to give their life for it, if government by consent needs them to do so, they've signed up to do so, to give their life for democracy and the Constitution. So thank them today. All right, with that, I'll leave you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.